has fascinated me for a long time is the term thought leadership. It has been a bit of an abused term also, but that doesn't take away the merit in the term. Thought leadership started all the way from Aristotle and Socrates times, and actually even older, if you look at what the rishis, munis in India, the kind of thinking they brought are very ancient culture. The Greeks, of course, popularized it with a rigorous logical approach. Then we had this Renaissance, then we had that Industrial Revolution, and everywhere we can see thought leadership. So there are two parts to that. Thought. We have thousands of thoughts every day, many of them nonsense, useless. But yes, some of them are important. And you know when you come across an important thought. It might be when you're waiting for your car at the airport, or when you are sitting in the conference, or having lunch, or watching TV. From time to time in your life, you'll get some very powerful and motivational thoughts. That is the power of thought. Thought is uniquely human, at least compared to machines. Machines don't have the kind of thinking that we do. And these are the thoughts that empower us. And when we say thought leadership, the second part of the term, leadership, that means that you're converting that thought into some action by involving a large number of people. So you're not building some lab in the corner which is doing some quantum computing or whatever the flavor of the season. In leadership, whether it's bringing in AI, whether it is some kind of biological or biomedical innovation, or whether it is even the concept of democracy, you can say is the thought leadership, which has dramatically transformed society. Others would all be living under some kind of king or God knows what kind of king and whatnot. Now, in business, what has happened is, so the thought leadership, when I first offered, was something that IT companies would talk about, an IBM or a Microsoft, Oracle or XYZ. Those kind of companies continue to talk about thought leadership, particularly in the AI space, but many other spaces. But today, it's become a widespread term. I don't think an MBA student today, or even an engineering student, can finish their education without going through several thought leadership kind of examples. So coming to very practical terms, a typical CIO or CTO or Chief Digital Officer or Chief AI Officer today must or is expected to, if the board expects, the shareholders expect, the customers expect, that will the leaders of my bank or my insurance company, are they thought leaders, are they bringing in thought leadership? Because you can't just have Amazon bringing in thought leadership and Swiggy bringing in thought leadership, and your financial services provider remains, like a laggard. People want that innovation coming in, even in financial sector, which is a fairly conservative, which we all know is a very conservative sector. So we're going to try and learn from our learned gentlemen, what is their personal experience. So first of all, I'll start with personal experience, then we'll go to organizational. So as each of you has experienced different kinds of thought leadership, whether in a coaching session, whether in a conference, whether while reading a book, whether while talking to someone, how has that transformed you? If you can give a particular anecdote or story that really, some kind of thought leadership that made you a different kind of person, different kind of thinker, that would be lovely. If not, the general flow. Shall we go left to right or alphabetical order? How do you want to do?
Maybe I'll take a start at and maybe.
Right, okay, Anup.
So my name is Anup Purohit. I've been a banker technologist for 3 decades plus. Was with JP Morgan, Barclays, then I was here with RBL, CIO for RBL, CIO for Yes Bank, and then last thing, I was a global CIO for Wipro as well. At present, I am with startups, advising them on their boards. So I'm right now representing a startup called API Banking .ai, which is a very unique, I would say, need of an hour for a country like us to be in a state where we are able to quickly, in an agile manner, adopt any new and the futuristic technologies which come into the ecosystem part of it. So that's about Anup Purohit. Coming on to personal front, things what had actually thought leadership, which I do practice throughout my banking experience. So unfortunately, I lost both my parents when I was very young, and I used to study with my friend, and his mother is still my kind of a mother, and I learned a lot of things from her. So her thought leadership, one thing which I was appreciating was that I used to entire my childhood I spent in their house. I was not staying there. I used to go back to my house where I used to stay, but most part of them I used to stay with them. So one thought leadership was she had 2 kids and I was the third one. She considered me as her elder kid. The accountability and the ownership of an outsider coming into a family, staying with them for almost 10 odd years, and then going back, coming in, going back, coming in, trusting that person more than the other kids, which are the biological, was something which made me think. So, for example, when she used to go out, she used to hand over the locker keys to me, not to her other sons. Not that they felt bad about it, because she gave it. So, learning from me was how do you trust people, even though you may. So, you need to build that trust. And I used to implement this when I was in the banking. Typically it's said in banking, if you are running operations, you can't run the audits because it's a conflict of interest in the technology world. In banks, I tried that out, and it worked for me both in Yes Bank as well as in Wipro. When I started, I was sitting on the 5 digit of audit observations, and then I got my hired person who was a CTO, and I gave him even the audit function, because you are a maker, you are the one who has a major audit observation, you are the one who should bring it down. And then work for me beautifully. In less than 3 years, we were in probably single digits audit observation in the technology domain. So that was my personal thought leadership, which I learned from my so-called as, she's still my mother, so I call her mother.
Very interesting. So bringing trust and audit together on the same platform.
It's basically,
in a different
how
way.
do you, because people don't allow a conflict of interest work to be done together. मतलब किसी को भी आप बताओगे तो बोलेंगे नहीं ये conflict of interest है, you can't do it. But I took a bet on it. So I thought that was a conflict of interest when my mother gave me the keys. I was not the biological son, but she gave me the key, and compared to that was a conflict of interest in terms of with the other kid. But she took the decision, and that worked for her. That worked for me. I had to apply those principles regularly. So I get questioned by a lot of folks, but I do that very regularly. वो बोलते हैं मतलब चोर को ही आप पुलिस बना दो, kind of a concept.
So that's like password sharing. आज के ज़माने में. Sir?
Yeah, so I'm Samir Saurabh. So I have almost like 3 decades plus, actually 34 years experience being in capital market and banking side. Started career in stockholding, then SDFC Bank as the first employee for their SDFC Securities. Then joined Daiwa Capital, a Japanese investment bank, as their COO and CTO role. Then came back in SDFC Bank. They called me again in 2016, and I was CTO there for till I left. That was my last assignment as a full-time job. That's a brief introduction about me. I left that job in 2022 December. And after that, I'm just doing consulting work, business consulting, technology consulting, and currently like 3 companies I'm working where I take them till IPO level, and so that is my assignment. as of now. So I will give you one example, like the thought leadership is being discussed. I'll give you a live scenario, and you will be able to relate to it, that how things develop and what kind of a leadership requirement is there when you get into some kind of a situation. So this is about 2018. Everybody would have heard about the major fiasco we had in HDFC Bank on the data center side. There was a major downtime, and so I was heading HDFC Securities, and it was our data center was also there. It also went down and so we had a plan of major version upgrade of our trading app platform. And this situation happened, and the call was that we have to immediately look for a data center. So that decision came, and so what we had to do that time, and it is a beautiful case study for entire for my career as well as for the entire team which is working. So we changed the data center. I'll keep it very short. We have to change the data center where the running business is already giving more than 3 or 4 digits kind of a revenue per month. Okay, and we have got live data center. We have to buy new servers now for my database, ORS, application, everything, because I am getting a new application, and the OS is also changing at the same time. Okay. Now this was the situation. So now this challenge was there, and only thing the current MD also, he was there. He said, Samir, the day you will be confident of going live, that day only I will go live. It may take 2 years, 5 years, I don't care. But the day you will be confident. So he completely empowered me. Now it became a further burden, because I can't say that I will delay it. I said, okay, I am committing you this day. Now, what was the challenge? The challenge was that it is not only that. So I thought, when I am doing this thing, why don't we look for something 3 years, 4 years down the line? Now, how the thought process? I am just giving you. So we thought, when I was there, and I was thinking, okay, 2022 or 23, the US election was coming. So all these things are very impactful on the trading side. Then 2024 is something like major election will come in India, and 2 decades of BJP government, it may change or something will happen, and the volume. So we are scared of all this volume surge and other things. So we planned it, and like what we should do for the 3 years, 4 years down the line. So what I realize now when I look back, so and what happens, something different happened. In 2020 March, everybody knows that COVID happened, and it increased the volume by almost 5x in 2 months' time for us. So what happened, this entire change which we did was luckily done on 26 January 2020. So in 1.5 years, we made every change, and we were very happy and relaxed. Now there is no problem. And suddenly this, and we were able to handle it without any issue, because everybody was planned for working for this with the 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line. So the thought process was there. And the biggest gain of all this thought process and the thought leadership, you can say, that 2 of my one-downs are now CIOs and CTOs for a different banks and broking company. Now this is not only about, so what I wanted to thrust here, it is not only about technology or technology enablement or business enablement. It's also how do you make leaders among your team. That is most critical part as of now when I work in various organizations and see we are getting into the AI zone where a lot of things are happening, coding is happening through AI, entire development, entire testing, entire cyber security things. Are we doing the right job for developing the future leaders as a human being? That is the focus point we should have. Otherwise, it will not be AI who will be taking the AI will take decision whatever data it has, but somewhere you need that human touch. Where still, I think when you go and meet people and do a video call, or a Teams call, but when you meet face to face, there is a different impact. I have seen business conversion on face to face meeting is 50% higher than the just on the Teams call. So that human touch is very critical as of now, I think, from the thought leadership point of view. That's my take.
Right. Thank you. I think you raised an important point that circumstances, if you think right, circumstances can make you a leader, or at least can kickstart your leadership journey. Because then you start thinking differently. Things are not, you just give a prompt, get an answer, do it. Think you have to work things differently. So Ishan, let's hear some thought leadership story from you.
So hello everyone, my name is Ishan. Currently I help banks digitize and automate. Currently I'm working with IDBI Bank. My earlier experience is with State Bank of India, South Indian Bank, and 2 years before I have joined IDBI. So personally, stating thought leadership, is basically when we have joined bank, it was all product based. We were selling FDs, CASA accounts, insurance and whatnot. So the very idea that banks are no longer only a financial distribution network or providing services based on your financial needs, but I relate this to the digital platform providers and digital platform apps, what we call as Amazon, Google, and Uber. So banks, stating for the banks will have to and are now, making themselves as a digital distribution and solving customer problems end to end. So banks can no more longer be treated or being assumed as a deposit keeper or a loan giver or a lender, but an entire ecosystem of customer lifecycle management, just like our internet-facing apps helps us. If you take the context for India, what Zomato, Swiggy, Ola, and Rapido has done for the internet-facing consumer companies, this is the same analogy I drive with the banks. Banks has to somehow relate with this kind of apps and services.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, consumer are not only looking for speed, they are also looking for personalization. They are looking for trust. They are looking for convenience. So what this apps has brought to the entire banking industry, and the question is not how will I automate this process. The question is how can I do away with this process? Why do I have to have this process instead? So since the banking, we can tell it as pre-demonetization and post-demonetization, pre-COVID and post-COVID, the banking has changed a lot, and the product-specific features of the banks has changed to the entire digital ecosystem, helping consumers solve their problems.
Right, yes, that's a good overall summary.
So, I would want to share one more thought leadership, which in my view is very, very relevant in today's world. I'm sure you guys would have read in recent lot of questions being raised on the HDFC CEO Shashi Jagdishwaran regarding one of the Fintech which he had, or a startup IT company which people have raised a question about on him. In my view, it genuinely requires a thought leader like Shashi to take that decision to get in. Because people generally look superficially, and then I come from banking, I can understand what he was trying to do, and I would share my thoughts why he would have done kind of a fintechs like FinDNAs and others, he would have done that. So typically what happens in a banking environment is most of the system of record people or the IT vendors have become a giant, and you'll be surprised the amount of money bank pays them is exorbitant, and I'm sure Samir would agree with me on that. particularly your core banking system vendors. And when a thought leader like Shashi, who is probably maybe will be out of the bank, retired in next couple of years' time, or maybe this year, but a thought leader who can de-risk a bank on a long term by thinking that I will replace the core banking system through a startup, which requires a solid courage. I will get a startup who will build my core banking system and replace these IT giants who are sitting in and then paying a lot of money, and I will de-risk them by having my own source code. It shows his thought leadership that banks are actually an IT companies in a business of banking, coincidentally, and that requires a thought leadership with a lot of challenges and a lot of hard times he's faced. I think that requires thought leaders, and then he still continues with the thought, he will do it, irrespective of what the allegations have gone in him. I think that's a thought leader for me, who can think out of the box, that I will do something for my bank, irrespective I'm in bank or not. I will do something to de-risk my bank and create my own systems where my team will support. I will have my own IT team who are not only a coordinator but actually a team who will develop something and own the source code. So this is something very unique, a thought leader, I would say, in the recent banking, what I have seen.
Right. So actually, Anup, you have kind of described the thought leadership culture at HDFC Bank, because it's not a legacy bank with a 100-year history. It started off, 20, 30 years ago, whatever, from zero, and become kind of the most prominent banking institution in India. And that happens not by doing things the standard way. That the whole bank itself is an example of thought leadership. And I'm sure the present management and the CEO are carrying forward that culture earlier. But taking this as an example, now we've also seen so many banking failures, and primarily either it's lethargy or corruption or fraud or mismanagement, those kind of things. And that is partly human nature as well. A lot of it is human nature. How do you see thought leadership becoming like a pillar, like controlling all these kinds of risks, whether it's human risk or technological risk or business risk or COVID risk or whatever, all these kind of risks that a banking system faces? Do you see thought leadership providing some kind of stability? Like HDFC, again, going back to your example. It has weathered all through variety of storms and maintained its posture, maintained its position.
So maybe I'll take it, and maybe Sameer can add.
And let's
to
keep
this.
it faster.
So in my view, since last 14 months that I've been out of banks and I'm on my own, I've been talking to a lot of banks across the country. And across the nations as well. I was in Nepal, met with their finance ministers, and then met a lot of MDs and CEOs of the bank.
Mm-hmm.
But let me stick to right now in India, please. I feel that some banks are doing very well with thought leadership and both top down and bottom up. Because if you have only top down, things won't work in a bank. You have to have top downs and a bottoms up approach where things are working fine. A lot of banks are still thinking that they want to do because they are probably coming up the curve, a lot of compliance challenges, focusing on kind of run the bank rather than grow the bank or think out of the box way. So in my view, I would say my last 14 months of as an outsider of a bank, not as a sitting in the bank, I feel that banks need a lot more thought-provoking approach or thought leaders who can think out of the box and can help. One is de-risk the banks or because typically as we say that loha lohe ko kaatta hai. So the risk emanating because of the digital technologies can be fixed by the digital technologies. You need to have that thought process. You can't fix it by in person or human or manual way. You need to fix it by the digital way of the AI. So you need to have that thought leaders to think it differently. In that. That's still lagging in my view as an outsider, I feel.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I will have general question. How many of you find IT as the cost center or the business side? It's all cost center. So first, I think this is my experience, and I am again coming up, and I have also done such mistakes. And see what happens that it is always treated as a cost center, though it is not a cost center nowadays. Entire business runs only because of IT, and it cannot be sitting on the cost side. Okay, that is the first one. Second is that most of the companies and most of the CXOs will always see what you are investing, what is the ROI. People never think about the COI, cost of inaction. The cost of inaction is much, much higher than your ROI. And that nobody is like, I would not name the bank, everybody will understand. But there is a speed on which, say, 20 years back, that company started and they reached to a certain level, but after that, they were not able to compete because they were sitting with the legacy. And when you are today talking about the AI-based platform and other thing, your legacy system will not enable it. So that is the reason, because nobody approved that. It was that why should I change it? It is running. I should run this hardware for another 5 years. AMC was there, another 3 years it can run till the end of life. What is the problem? But cost of not replacing, not only from the support side and other AMC and other charges, you have to keep some resources which are still working on those technology where the world has moved 10 steps ahead. This is where the thought leadership, in the case he mentioned, Anup has mentioned now, is the basically use case where it is not only the CTO, CDO or CIO's decision, it is about the CFOs, CRO, CEO taking this call. Yes, this is the technology decision, this is the business decision, and that's how we have to move and we have to replace things. Because they have to think 2 steps ahead. It's not 1 step. Now you have to be 2 steps ahead of the current timeline. So that's my thought process in the.
That's a good point. 2 steps ahead, not just the next step. So I'm reminded of this saying, look before you leap. And one part of it is to stop and not leap. But I think the other side is what you're emphasizing. There's an opportunity there, please leap. That's my take from what Samir is saying. We cannot crawl and walk, it's time to leap and move ahead. Let's hear from Ishan. What is your perspective on this transformation?
Yeah, so I see a very interesting parallel what my fellow panelists have earlier mentioned. So earlier thought leadership was all about, do you have the right answers? Now it's all about, do you have the right questions? So I see technology in 3 phases. When we joined, it was seen only as a support function. The role of the technology was to support, have an uptime, cost, reduction of cost. Then the second phase came where technology was seen as business enabler, where it was when the digitization and automation started happening post 2012, 2014, it was seen as generating business from technology. And the current trend after this AI evolution, we see technology as a key differentiator. It's no more supporting. It is no more supporting a strategy. Rather, it is enabling the strategy. So I would like to buy a few lines from my friend and mentor Vijay Shekhar Sharma, who's co-founder and founder of Paytm. So what sir has told, in 2005 was a telecom evolution where we see companies like Bharti Airtel have made 1000x returns, unprecedented space and wealth creation has happened. But we also see that Geo started the second phase post 2014. But the companies like Idea and Vodafone had to merge. Companies like Tata Docomo, Videocon, Aircel had to shut down. We know the fate of BSNL, needless to say. 2015 was evolution of payments. Pre-2014-15, banks had 100% share for processing payments, but we could see PhonePe, Paytm and Google Pay taking away 90% of payments from the banks, and I think banks have already lost the race of payments. So, and post 2015, currently 2025, we see the evolution of AI. Right? So this is the third phase of decadal from 2005 to 15, 15 to 25, and now 25 to, we don't know, maybe 35. So you see the fate of our, just to name few traditional IT companies, Infosys, TCS, Wipro, LTI, they are where what they were 5 years before. All right, but let us see what this AI, Anthropic's Claude, OpenAI's ChatGPT, Facebook Meta's Llama, and Google's Gemini. They are already reaching $1 trillion valuation. So the parallel what I want to drive here is. IT has been seen in phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. I am very sure that IT and technology will be having phase 4, 5, 6, and we don't know. So the change is the only constant. What we all say, the adaptability. If you adapt, you will thrive. If not, we will be perished.
I just have a slightly different view on 2 points which you made, and I thought it's important to share my views on that. So, for me, IT is not an enabler. IT in today's world decides the business strategy. They don't enable the strategy, they decide the business strategy. And that's where I feel, and taking from him, IT is a cost center. And now, for all practical purposes, that's true. IT is still considered as a cost center in the BFSI world. They take it there. Can a CIO be a revenue generator in today's world? Absolutely, he can be a revenue generator in today's world. Unfortunately, there are people who are not thinking in that direction, and that's what I said thought leadership is missing in that area. Banking as a service, they can create a platform where they can integrate with the fintechs part. Fintechs can source the deposits for them, and they can run that business unit. They are the best suited to run that business unit as compared to anyone else. Integrating with corporates and then getting the salary accounts automated corporates, they can get in that area. What thought leadership is missing in my view in today's world. People are not thinking because they feel that technology, CIOs can only be the support function, they can't be the revenue generator. In my view, I totally disagree with that concept. I've not been able to kill that concept or evoke that concept in the mind of my CEOs in the past, but I still keep on telling that is the direction where it should get in. CIOs should be running a business unit called AI Bank. If there is a bank, I'm just picking up for the namesake, Yes Bank. Yes Bank should have a unit called Yes AI Bank, and that bank should be run by the CIO of that bank, and then generate the revenue through that interface across for the bank. You will see a drastic difference in that area, and that will significantly grow. So that mindset needs to be changed. It is still, as he rightly said, thought process is there. If you look at if I go back 30 years when I started my career, IT were a small unit under existence के बहुत थोड़ा automate कर देगा तो CEO operations के नीचे रखा, फिर थोड़ा important हुआ तो CEO के नीचे रखा, अभी भी वो CEO के नीचे है IT. Most of the organization IT doesn't report into CEO. Very few banks or insurance companies or financial sector have taken a decision to let CIO sit on the management committee of the CEO direct reporting. बहुत कम ने लिया हुआ है. Even after taking that decision, they are still a support function. They are not a revenue generator. There should be mandate coming in. How can you generate the revenue? Or if you can't generate, how can you light a fire under business and be a business driver? Give the business a here is what is the opportunity. Run on this, run on that. Thought leadership I am still seeing missing in my view.
Absolutely.
So let's try to close in a couple of minutes,
Yeah.
and then have a couple of few questions from the audience.
So just last point I wanted to say, just to add to it. See, if you see the on the broking side or on the lending space, the major disruption has come only from the tech company. You call it like fintech side on Pro, Angel, Zerodha, all this. They are all technology. So basically, the technology people are running the business. Same is happening on the lending side. You name a lot of lending companies are there, which are completely run by technology only. Yeah.
So essentially what I can summarize what they're saying, or I can infer from what they're saying is, the thought leader who is closer to the customer is driving the transformation. Whether it is delivery, food delivery, whether it is financial services, whether it is health services. I think customers value speed, convenience, price, and integrated set of offerings rather than product-wise, 10 different products. And thought leaders are, in a sense, also bringing that integration. I'm not a thought leader, because I'm sure the Swiggies of the world are not going to restrict themselves to just that food delivery and items delivery. Tomorrow they'll get, like Amazon is trying to get into financial services. Meta tried to launch that cryptocurrency, something. So financial services ripe picking for everyone. Anyone who's offering anything, anyone who has a customer base wants to offer financial services. Financial service companies have to safeguard themselves, and they can rely on regulators and brand and all that to a certain extent.
Well, if you look at it, you can't open a bank account. Yes, Swiggy can open a bank account, but they have to tie to the bank.
Yeah.
So another thing which I slightly disagree with Ishan, sorry, is that fintech will never replace banks.
Yeah.
Because Indian regulators are so powerful, Indian government ecosystem is so powerful that they know what banks are. Banks are the one whom we trust money. We don't trust money with fintech. Fintech is a channel for us to do things, and they will continue. So, I was talking to Nepal Finance Minister, Dr. Swarni, and he asked me that they are at the stage where we were in 2015, where fintech was coming, will fintech replace the bank, conversation kind of thing. My view to him is that fintechs and bank has to coexist. It's a competition. It's a collaboration plus competition in some area. But bank will always be the underlying area, particularly if that governance is lost. And India, RBI or SEBI or government will never let that happen. And it should not happen. And I have believed more the regulation comes in, more the innovation will come. Innovation is actually, regulation leads to innovation in my view. They don't control the innovation. Innovations are actually because of the regulations what we have in the country.
So you introduced a very interesting term, which is itself a thought leadership term, co-optation.
Yeah.
Right. So we can have a couple of questions from our audience.
Hi, good afternoon. I think we have had a fantastic panel discussion. So I'm Shantanu Sengupta. I'm a former managing director at Wells Fargo, and I represent the business side. I think I just have a quick comment on what Mr. Purohit said, and I'd like you, elaborate on that. As you rightly mentioned, the CIOs, CTOs, or CISOs should be seen as a revenue center and not as a cost center. I think part of the onus, and coming from business, part of the onus lies on the CIO, CTO, CISO community, because I think it's important for them to speak the language of business, right? I serve on boards. I've been, as I said, at Asia Pacific level, MD at Wells. The challenge that we used to have is the technology folks used to speak a language, CVs, etc., which just didn't make sense to the business, right? So I think that mindset has to be there, and that there the thought leadership has to come in. They have to purposely speak business metrics, business language, to have a seat at the table.
Absolutely, Shantanu, and I'll probably share, which I wanted to share, but let me tell my journey, or probably how the CIO roles have evolved over a period of time. As I said, 30 years pehle, CIOs used to report into operations. In 2014, business and business heads and MDs and CEOs started a CDO role. Because the CIOs, you rightly said, they used to create a concrete road, but business needs an agility. They need to walk through that grassland over there. They were never understanding the business. They never spoke to the business in the language which they understand. So that was a problem. In 2014, when the CDO role came into play, management ने बोला CDO का लेके आते हैं, ना technology, ना business, बीच में बैठ के काम करेंगे and they will do it. That's where I would say not all, but significant, at least my eyes got opened. I thought, नहीं अगर मैं business के language में बात नहीं करूँगा, then मेरा existence is at risk. You're absolutely right, but now you see things have changed significantly. I'm not saying 100%. There are people, like my founder was very clear when I joined Yes Bank, I was very clear to Rana, the business solution team, the technology team, the business intelligence team has to sit with me, else I will not be able to add value and I can't do it. And he agreed to it on that. My business solution people, I hired from the business operations team. They were not a techies. I hired them from the business operation team who can talk to the business in the business language because operation people understand business better than anyone else because they are the one who are doing it. That was an important aspect, but things are changing, Shantanu, right now. I'm not saying 100%, but significantly things have changed in most part of the, I would say, banks.
And I'm seeing a lot of CIOs, technology professionals, take leadership courses or communication courses or soft, non-technical courses to kind of bridge that gap. And if we can take one more question if someone has. Yes, Sundar.
So good question, CEO California Solutions. I advise a currency company actually, and the problem I see is and currency companies are completely technology driven. And it comes to again what you spoke about controls, being the focus of RBI and the government. Now, the currency companies are operating in Singapore, Dubai, and many other parts. They work through stablecoin, where stablecoin is similar to the sovereign currency. And there is a market exchange. In India, actually, FIU has allowed many companies because they are highly KYC driven and they work on blockchain
Sundar,
and AML driven. The question is control versus flexibility. And do we keep flexibility in mind and look at future business growth potential? Because these companies have now decided that we'll go to Dubai and Singapore because RBI has a very strong view on stablecoin. They say they want to float our own coin. I am not saying what is right and what is wrong.
Okay.
Give me your views.
Okay.
I am not expert. I'm only trying to guide this company.
So actually, I'm working on this in Dubai I'm advisor to someone, and you are talking about the CFD market, correct? CFD market.
PDA also.
Yeah. So it's a predominantly, like I have seen in one building, 700 brokers are there in Dubai. They are doing the currency trading. On all 700 are Indians. Okay. Yeah. So around 2,500 brokers are like this in Dubai, and then it is Cyprus, Singapore. If I use the loose term, it is called dabba trading. Okay, that is not legal in India, but it's legal in other places. The reason I feel is like, do you know how many people are trading in crypto as of today in India? Perpetual crypto derivatives, which is like, the names where Gautam Gambhir and all these people come for ad. Can you guess how many people are trading in crypto in India? Any wide guess? No prizes, but any wide guess?
10 million.
And how many people are in equity market and mutual fund?
Much more. Yeah.
5 crores.
Okay, so equity market is roughly around 4 to 5 crores. Total demat account is around 12 crores, including mutual fund. In crypto, in January, the figure was 24 crores. Okay, why this has happened? There is a reason also, because they get 200 times leverage. So you put 10 rupee and you will get 2,000 rupees worth of position. And it will get cut in 10 seconds because that kind of a leverage will not survive in this crypto market. Now this is run under FIU. If you have to start a crypto exchange or digital asset exchange, you have to be FIU. Now, Indian government is not allowing what you are saying, which I believe is because Indian population is quite huge. Okay, they don't want this kind of a like malpractice where a lot of investor will suffer. So there also a lot of restrictions are coming. So regulators will not allow in India such things to happen where the common investors or individuals will. So what has happened because of this? The major shift happened in crypto because when Indian government banned on gaming, Dream 11 and various platforms. See, Dream 11 itself was like 20 crore or 25 crore people were used to play during IPL. So that population has shifted in this sector.
So friends, I really like to appreciate all of you for your insights